You're going to be using a picture of yourself. You're going to put a transparency on top of your picture and go ahead and tape that on, as you can see that I am doing here. Then you're going to be using a Sharpie, and you're going to use the Sharpie to outline all of the very important features that you want to be included in your artwork. It's going to end up kind of creating a cartoon coloring page version of yourself. So you're not coloring anything in with the Sharpie, you're simply outlining the important features. So I'm going to start with the eye here, which would be one of the most difficult parts. And I'm going to trace around the outside. I'm going to trace around where the colored part of the eye goes, the iris. I'm going to put the pupil in. I can go ahead and color in the pupil because that's going to stay black. And I'm even going to Sharpie around where my reflection would go. When you're doing like the eyebrows or the hair, you're not actually making a bunch of strands. You're simply outlining around them so that you can later go in and add color. So I'm going to go ahead and keep doing that. Here I decided I was using a fine, ultra fine, and then I switched to a very large chunky marker for the outlining. So you just need to think about what features you're doing and decide whether you want it to be an ultrafine or a large chunky marker. And then you're going to take it off of the photo, and you should have something that looks like you, but a cartoon outlined version of you. And when I am ready to add some shading, I need to decide how I'm going to add value to my artwork. Am I going to use hatching? Am I going to use cross-hatching? Am I going to use stippling? Stippling is the little dots. So I want you to use at least 2 different shading techniques that we talked about for value somewhere in the artwork. So here I'm adding hatching to the hair. And then I'm going to add some cross-hatching where the dark, like the shadows of the face might be. When you're ready to start painting, please remember you're using a very small amount of paint. You're putting the wax paper on your tray and quarter-size amounts of paint when you put it onto the tray. Please just get the colors that you're actually going to use in one sitting. Don't get all the colors you're possibly going to need for the entire thing. It's also helpful to use the color scheme information we learned and choose color schemes based on that. When you're ready to start painting, you're actually going to flip your transparency over. You are painting on the back, so not where you Sharpied on the front, but on the back. That way the Sharpie doesn't get covered up and you don't have to worry as much about painting within the lines because the Sharpie is still going to show. So you're painting on the back of your transparency. And then once you're ready, you're going to start applying your paint. And this is probably going to take several layers. So you can see the Sharpie still, even though you paint right over it. So you're probably going to paint several layers. You're going to add a layer of paint, and then maybe another day after it's dry, you'll probably go in and add another layer of paint. And you'll also notice that I'm using kind of layered amounts of colors. I'm not sticking to just one basic color, like I can add white into the blue or whatever colors I want. So I'm kind of layering them in to give it a more interesting look. So I'm just going to keep painting here so you can see how this is going to turn out. And you are going to leave the skin of your self-portrait see-through. So don't worry about the skin, but paint everything else. The skin is going to be left completely see-through. So the hair, the lips, your shirt, that all needs to be done. Your eyebrows, your colored part of your eye.
We're going to create a watercolor effect background. So you're going to use a piece of saran wrap and Crayola or some kind of regular broad tip markers to color on your saran wrap. I'm doing a cool color scheme. I just chose that because I didn't use a lot of those in my actual artwork, so I want them to pop against my portrait. And I'm using a bunch of different cool colored markers, and I'm just going to keep coloring them, layering them. You want to fill up the whole piece of saran wrap. And then once you're finished with that, what you're going to do is you are going to use a spray bottle of water, and you are going to spray right onto the saran wrap, and you're going to see the water bubble up or make little droplets. And once you see that, what you're going to do is you're going to pick up the saran wrap, you're going to turn it over and place it onto the paper, and you're going to give it a little bit of a rub to get all the marker to transfer onto your paper.
Okay.
And then when I pull it off, you're going to see kind of a watercolor effect. Once your watercolor background is completely dry, you're going to take your transparency image of yourself, and on the side that you painted, so it should be face down, you're going to take a glue stick and you're going to put a little bit of glue in each of the four corners of your artwork. And then what you're going to do is you're going to glue that down to your watercolor paper. Once you've got your portrait firmly attached, that is it. You have completed your artwork, and it should look something like this with your own picture.